Good afternoon, my name is Aldo Ruberto, and I'm here with Liberal candidate Michael Gravelle. I want to first of all thank Thunder Bay Live for giving us this opportunity for the interview. Michael, a lot of people don't know you. After this interview, I hope they do know you. My first question is very simple, I guess, is when did you know you wanted to be in politics? What was that moment?
Well, I mean, thank you to Thunder Bay Live as well for this opportunity. It's a great chance to obviously talk about some of the issues and tell a little bit about myself. I was interested in politics at a really young age. I got very fascinated, may I say, by the United States system. I'm of an age where I recall John F. Kennedy, and that kind of inspired me in terms of those great days. But it was really Pierre Trudeau who came along in 1968 that as a very, very young guy I got motivated to believe in the good that government could do and quite frankly what politicians could do to look after people. And it was him talking about the just society that really motivated me as a very young man, a teenager in fact. So politics has always been something that I cared about, and that kind of drove me to stay involved at a very young age, and here I am still very involved.
Now, you first got elected in 1995, is that right?
That's correct.
And you've been in politics how long?
Well, I mean, I in some fashion I've been involved in politics much longer than that, because I was a political assistant to a number of federal members of Parliament, one of them being Mr. Bob Andrews, who was a cabinet minister during the Trudeau years. But I decided, in the mid-90s, after spending a lot of time sort of as a political assistant, a bit of a backroom guy, that it was the right time for me to take a run at it myself, and got nominated in 1995. Was very fortunate to get elected, been elected since then a number of other times, and if anything, I feel more motivated now than I even did at the beginning, as I learn more about how what we can do in government to help make people's lives better.
The one thing that really surprises me is your energy. Like, if you've been in there so long, you think you'd be worn out, you'd be tired, but I see you every single day out and about. How do you keep going? What is it? Where do you get that energy from?
Well, it's a lovely question. Thank you very much. And I do feel very energetic, and I think to some degree it's got a little bit to do with the fact that I did have a recent health challenge, as many people know, and some people know that I was diagnosed with cancer and a couple of years ago, and have received treatments that have been very, very successful. That gave me a new lease on life. I am very grateful to feel as well as I do, and that helped continue to motivate me to continue to work hard. But what I will say about my energy, it comes from my father, I believe. I mean, he was an extraordinarily energetic guy as well, and also a very clear belief that if you're going to enter public life, and may I say, Aldo, I think you're that way as well, there's no halfway. You're 100% committed to the work, which means you do it all. And that certainly means in a riding like Thunder Bay Superior North, you travel a great deal, you work hard every single day. It really is something that requires a 100% all-in commitment. I feel very, very committed to exactly that philosophy. And may I say, when you help people with problems that they have, when you're able to work on major issues that I've had the privilege of being able to do, whether it is the Ring of Fire or it is trying to get the Highway 4 lane between Thunder Bay and Nipigon, and you see some success, that motivates you as well. So I love what I do. I love my connection with my constituents. I have a very personal way of dealing with everybody. I love people, and it seems to be returned. So I just feel very motivated. It's wonderful to feel as energetic as I do, and I'm going to hopefully keep going that way for a while longer.
Well, you covered a couple of areas there, Michael. So I'm just go back a bit. And
yeah.
I'm going to get a little personal now, so I hope you don't mind.
Not at all.
I want to talk about the cancer scare you had, and what type of cancer was it? How was your treatment? Where did you go for your treatment? Yeah,
well, it was obviously for anybody that's gone through that journey with cancer in their system, it's amazing how many people either have or have family members who have. I was diagnosed with a form of B-cell lymphoma, a very particularly aggressive form, back late in 2012, and pretty scary. Your mind goes all kinds of places. But I learned about myself. I learned that indeed the positive attitude that I've had about life in general has really been something that was helpful during the process. Went to the Northwestern Ontario Regional Cancer Centre. It's an extraordinary place with remarkable people. I think one of the top cancer centers, really, certainly in the province, if not in the country, and did my regular treatments that were very precisely prescribed by the oncologist who was looking after me. Got through them relatively well. Kept working. I made a determination that I was going to keep working. I held on to my job as MPP and as minister. Was able to work. When I look back now, I must admit I marvel a bit at how I was able to do it, because I see pictures of myself when I actually didn't look very well. But I didn't know I didn't look well. I was so determined to do it. And again, I got the extraordinary support. The love that was sent my way, the prayers that were sent my way, the emails, that really helped me a lot too. So I got through the treatments, which took virtually 9 months, and then, they were successful. I mean, I'm very careful not to get overly confident, because once you've been diagnosed with cancer, you've got to be very careful of the future. And I am right now on what is called a cancer maintenance program, as prescribed by my oncologist. But it's revitalized me. I feel so grateful to have done so well. I feel so energetic and strong again, in many ways better than I felt in many, many years. So it's amazing how it's helped me keep going.
Well, you look good, first of all.
Feel good.
And I was there when you made that announcement, when you actually made that cancer announcement. And what struck me was the support you had from your family and friends. Can you tell us a little bit about your family? How many brothers and sisters you have?
Yeah, I have a pretty large family. There's 7 of us, and I'm very close to my family. It's, as with so many people, it's a really important part of my life, and they were there. You're right, they were there with me. I decided that I needed to speak publicly because I didn't want to keep working, but I was at the cancer center seeing people, but not being public about what was happening. So some people did know what was happening. I thought it was important to be honest about it, and to be able to try to, obviously I was reaching out to people, and boy, did they reach back to me. I mean, I was doing actually regular updates on my Facebook page, very personal ones, and getting astonishing responses back. So, it really was, in a very strange way, a wonderful thing, because I think even developed a closer relationship with more people, and again, they've been so wonderful since the treatments have finished, and I am feeling so much better, and obviously working hard in this campaign.
Where did you grow up? Which streets did you grow up in when you were younger?
we're Marlborough Road, Pine Street, right near St. Joe's Heritage. Went to Corpus Christi School as a young boy, and went to Port Arthur Collegiate Institute, which is now the location for the Lakehead University Law School. Went to Lakehead University for a couple of years. Got drawn into politics as a very young guy, working for Mr. Andrus, and thought I would do that for maybe a year or so, and a number of years later, I'm still doing it in some fashion. But again, I do believe so much in the public service being such a positive benefit. I know that politicians do not have the best reputations, and I understand why. But I've just always tried to be as straightforward and honest as I can, and work as hard as I can to try to be a positive force for good. And I think as MPP, you can really do that in quite a remarkable way. I think, city councillors, you're the ones who are closest to the ground. But people certainly all across this huge riding of Thunder Bay Superior North, I've come to know them so well. I know what the issues are, and I know what I need to fight for.
Well, I'm going to go to the economy now, Michael. In 2006, I know Thunder Bay had all the mills closed. I know that people were leaving to go west to find jobs. It looked like we were in a really low point. And I know when we first got elected, when we were down in Toronto, we went to see the Liberal government, and you were there at the table.
Yeah.
And I just want you to talk about sort of the type of investment and the type of programs you and your party put in, to help get us out of that economic depression.
It's a really great question, because I think the reality was that although everybody talks about the global recession of 2008, 2009, it happened in Northern Ontario before then, because you're quite right by talking about 2006. I mean, we were watching, particularly as the dollar started rising, when the dollar was down at 62 cents, I mean, the forest products companies certainly were able to manage a lot of things because it was at a different level, and most of our exports, particularly in forestry, are going to the U.S. As the dollar started to rise, and as the challenges started to hit, we were seeing mill after mill shut down. We put together actually a pretty substantial incentive program for forestry, up to about $1 billion, with a number of programs which helped industry actually work their way through it. Some of them were able to actually come back into business after shutting down. We set up a Northern Industrial Energy Rate Program, which is providing a reduction of 25% in energy costs for major resource development producers, first in the forestry sector and then in the mining sector. That made a huge difference. We provided funding for roads building and road maintenance by the forestry company as well. What had previously been responsibility of the companies, we took that over, and we're continuing to find those kinds of support. So there's no question it was difficult, but what we're seeing now is perhaps somewhat of a different industry, but our government was, certainly for all the right reasons on the hot seat. I was a local member in a riding where mills were shutting down, and I was doing everything I could to make the case to obviously my colleagues, the Premier and the ministers, that we needed a special program. We put those programs in place, and then I became fortunate enough to be appointed to cabinet myself, which allowed me to do some things as Minister of Northern Development and Mines. The Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation was very helpful and continues to be helpful in terms of providing job creation benefits to thousands of people in Northern Ontario. I often say with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, which we brought from a $60 million fund to a $100 million a year fund, that there's not one community in Northern Ontario, not one, that has not benefited from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation. So there's no doubt those were tough times, and it was a battle all the way. But we have now got stories such as the Terrace Bay Mill reopening, being purchased by the AV Terrace Bay, the Birla Group from India, who are going to be converting that operation to a dissolving pulp operation. It's going to be providing real sustainable future for that mill, and that mill is actually feeding into the need for the reopening of sawmills, so we're working towards that. We're looking at innovation in the forestry sector. We've set up the Center for Research and Innovation in the Bioeconomy, so we're having operations in terms of pellet productions and biomass. So, it takes time, and that's where all of us want everything to happen right away, but, it's a bit like the Ring of Fire. We've worked so hard on that project, and we are now, I believe, as well positioned as we've ever been to move the project forward. I mean, it was a little unfortunate from my perspective that the NDP decided not to support the budget. Here we had a $1 billion investment by the province in infrastructure. Here we just signed an agreement with the Matawa First Nation chiefs to ensure that the communities closest to the Ring of Fire get benefits, get our $1 billion investment. So we're ready to move forward with that project as well. But it does take time, and we need to get it right.
Okay, so when you talk about mines starting up, what is a normal time span from discovering the mineral to actually having a mine in production normally?
It's a great question. I mean, it's not exaggeration to say that often from the very beginning, when the first sort of claim is put in the ground, the first stake is put in the ground, to an actual mine being opening can be easily 10 years. There's lots of work. There's environmental, assessment issues at play. There's all the issues related to being able to find the financing, and there is the reality of commodity prices changing. So when you look at any major mining project, it certainly can be 6, 7, 8, 10 years. For those who say, why isn't the Ring of Fire moving forward more quickly, I really do make the case that indeed it actually is moving forward in a very positive way. And the fact is, we're also talking about a resource development project in a remote part of the province that's never seen any development before. This is a remote, pristine part of the North. It's a beautiful part of the North. Again, that's why it was so crucial to sit down with the First Nations most directly impacted, enter into real negotiations with them. Bob Ray was actually hired by the Matawa First Nations to be their negotiator. We were fortunate to get former Justice Frank Yakabuchi to work on the behalf of the province in terms of our negotiations. And may I say, these are different kinds of negotiations. This was about ensuring that benefits were going to go to the communities. It wasn't about who gets the best deal. But this takes work as well, and there was also a need to build up trust and respect for the First Nations. So to get that framework agreement in place was crucial, vital. Once that was in place, that allowed me, certainly as Minister of Northern Development Mines, to then go to the Minister of Finance and say, we need some significant dollars for infrastructure, and that's our $1 billion commitment. So the project is moving forward, and these take time, but we have every reason to be excited about this project.
I'm glad you explained it that way, because a lot of people want things done instantaneously.
Sure.
And being a remote area, I can understand the issues.
Yeah.
Michael, one of the questions on people's minds is utility prices.
Sure.
And so could you comment on, number one, why it's costing so much, why they keep going up, and what you're doing about it, what the Liberal Party is doing about it?
Yeah, no, it's a very big issue. I'm certainly hearing it at the doors. I particularly, may I say, hear it more frequently when we go outside Thunder Bay, because I represent a large riding. Thunder Bay Superior North goes all the way along the top half of the Lake Superior right to Pick River First Nation. The Pick River goes up to Highway 1117, Highway 11 up to Nakina, Long Lac, a number of First Nations up there as well. And certainly for communities in particular that do not have access to natural gas, the hydro prices were pretty brutal this past winter. The reality was that when we came into power, and formed government in 2003, there was, quite frankly, just a real mess in terms of the energy system in the province. There was a need to absolutely upgrade it from an infrastructure point of view. There have been thousands of power lines built, new transmission put in place. We have a long-term energy plan put in place. Those things do cost significant dollars, but there's no doubt we also need to find ways to help particularly those people that are on fixed incomes, find a way to keep those costs down. And we put in place the clean energy benefit, which takes 10% off people's hydro costs, and that's really, really important. But still, people are having a tough time. We put in other benefits in place. One of the things in our budget was an Ontario electricity support program that would have provided up to $250 a year to help people reduce those costs. Got stopped because of the election. If we are able to get back into to government, we're moving forward on that one really, really quickly. We're continuing with our energy subsidy programs for industry as well, because we recognize how job creation and how important industry is. So there's no doubt. I don't shy away from the fact that there have been challenges in terms of the energy system. One of the things I want to talk about, and I guess I got a chance to do it here, is that I would like to see the extension of natural gas beyond into communities, certainly in my riding, but other parts of the province and Northern Ontario in particular. Because if we can get natural gas, and there's some projects underway that I probably should be a little careful to talk about, but I'm telling you, we were moving forward in a very positive way. If we can get natural gas into those communities, there are some costs involved in that, but I want to be able to speak about that, because if we can get natural gas, even though those prices went up, they really dipped down for a while. And that's my real hope, is that we can do those sort of things. But there's no doubt, I spent a lot of time this winter on the phone and talking to constituents about their energy prices. We were very upset, may I say, with the way that Hydro One were sending out their billing system. It was quite a mess, and I think they will acknowledge that. We have them now dealing with a one-on-one with individuals about their cases. We want to make sure that the costs that people are giving have been accurate, but we're gonna continue to bring forward programs that are going to help support certainly the average citizen, particularly those with fixed income, certainly those in industry as well. And we want to continue to build transmission lines to make sure that the energy is here. Because one of the things you also hear, and you'll hear it during the campaign, is that we need to make sure we have enough energy to supply the projects that are coming forward. That is something that is locked in place. I mean, both my colleague Bill Moore and I are excited about the fact that we have actually converted the Anacoca generating station to biomass. That's about to come online. It's quite remarkable. And the Thunder Bay generating station, we're going to be able to keep that alive as well with advanced biomass and making sure that we provide the backup energy that's needed.
Well, as a city rep, we're very appreciative of that. Michael, I want to talk a little bit about that highway from Thunder Bay to Nipigon. I know you were in opposition, and that was an idea you brought up many times. How do you feel now that it's on its way to completion?
Well, you know, this one, I mean, I describe this as one of my crusades, because it was. I mean, I was first elected in 1995, and you're right, I was in opposition. Mike Harris was the premier, and one of the first things I talked about was, you know what, we should have a 4-lane highway between Thunder Bay and Nipigon. And people told me, actually, I was crazy, that it just wouldn't happen. And I said, but it should. There is no alternate route. It's not safe when there's an accident or when there's a major snowstorm, it's shut down. So I just kept at it. When we formed government in 2003, I continued to make the case. And one of the things that we're most proud of, I am certainly, and I know my colleague Bill is as well, the Northern Highways program, which is huge. I mean, previously the most that was ever spent in Northern Highways was somewhere in the area of $250 million a year. Well, we've had huge levels of spending, and part of that has been able for me being in a position to actually make the case, may I say, as Northern Development and Mines Minister, who's responsible for Northern Highways, to put spending directly into 4-laning projects between Thunder Bay and Nipigon. So this is one of the things that I perhaps will say probably most proudly that I'm happy about. And we've got about close to 35 kilometers of 4-laning almost done. 2 more projects for expansion were in this past budget. I've referenced that a couple of times. We need to get back to Queen's Park so those 2 projects can move forward. But this is something that I know people feel strongly about. I mean, it's great for jobs. It's tremendous for the construction industry, but it's in terms of safety and a beautiful driving experience. One of the most fun experiences of my life this past summer was opening up a beautiful 14-kilometer stretch. Holy cow, it was wonderful. We're going to finish this project all the way to Nipigon.
Okay, Michael, I know you were involved very heavily in bringing a private members bill with the diabetes pump. Could you quickly tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's nice to have you remember that, because that was something that meant a lot to me. I've often said, you know, people do say, you ever really feel you get anywhere in politics? You ever get things done? This was an interesting experience, because I was a private member, I wasn't a minister, I was and I was working in, Dwight Duncan actually at that time was the Minister of Finance. And what I learned by sitting down with a constituent of mine and his son was that not everybody had access to insulin pumps. People with type 1 diabetes who could benefit from insulin pumps, which completely and totally could change their lives for the better. If they did not have an insurance medical program that gave them this, these were expensive. They are expensive to get, and let alone the supplies associated with it. So I went to work on that. I had 2 private members' bills calling on the government of Ontario to provide the funding for the provision of insulin pumps and the related supplies. And in the 2006 budget, the Minister of Finance put it in. We began by people that were under 18 and under who needed it. Again, doctors need to say it's needed. It's now basically there for everybody who has the diagnosis that can use the pump. And it was one of those things that I thought at the end of my days in this business, whenever that will be, and I hope it's a while longer, this is something I will feel I made a difference. Me doing a job is what you would expect an MPP to do, to go there, to put the pressure on my own government, and to successfully get that was something I'm just so proud about. And it's wonderful actually to talk about it again.
Well, Michael, I have a whole bunch of questions left, and I'm going to save it for another time. I want to thank you, first of all, for all the work you do for Thunder Bay and Northern Ontario.
Well, thank you.
As a councillor, I know that I've been to the table many times. I've seen you there. I've seen the advocacy you provide for Northern Ontario, and I know you work like crazy hours. So thank you very much for coming today, your time.
Thank you. Let me return the compliment, though. You do a great job for the city. You're just one of the most enthusiastic boosters, and it's great working with you and with the city of Thunder Bay, and we'll keep doing good things.
Well, thank you, Michael.
It's been a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. I'd also like to thank Thunder Bay Live for giving us the opportunity to have this interview and get to know Michael Gravelle from a different perspective, and get to know the person, the man behind the man. And one man can make a difference. Good luck, Michael.
Aldo, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
You.